ॐ नमो ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Verse 1.15.1 Sut uvacha एवं कृष्णसखः कृष्णो भ्रात्राराज्ञा विकल्पितः नानाशङ्कास्पदं रूपं कृष्णविश्लेषकर्षितः
Hare Krishna. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna. Over and above all Maharaja Yudhishthira's speculative inquiries.
Verse 15.2 शोकेन शुष्यद्वदन् हृद्वदना हृत्सरोजो हत्प्रभः विभुं तम् इवानुस्मरन् न शक्नोत् प्रभासितुम्
Translation. Due to grief, Arjuna's mouth and lotus like heart had dried up. Therefore, his body lost all luster. Now, remembering the Supreme Lord, he could hardly utter a word in reply.
Verse 15.3 कृच्छ्रेण संस्तभ्य शुचः पाणिनामृज्य नेत्रयोः परोक्षेण समुन्नद्ध पर्णयोत्कण्ठ्यकातरः
Translation. With great difficulty, he checked the tears of grief that smeared his eyes. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of his sight and he increasingly felt affection for him.
Verse 15.4 सख्यं मैत्रीं सौहृदं च सार्थ्यादिषु संस्मरन् नृपम् अग्रजम् इत्याह बाष्पगद्गदया गिराः
Translation. Remembering Lord Krishna and his well wishes, benefactions, intimate familial relations, and his chariot driving, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak.
Verse 15.5 अर्जुनोवाच वञ्चितोऽहं महाराज हरिणा बन्धुरूपिणा येन्मे अपहृतं तेजो देवविस्मापनं महत्
Translation. Arjuna said, O king, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me.
Verse 15.6 यस्य क्षणवियोगेन लोको ह्यप्रियदर्शनः उक्थेन रहितो ह्येष मृतकः प्रोच्यते यथा
Translation. I have just lost him whose separation for a moment would render all the universes unfavorable and void, like bodies without life.
Verse 15.7 यत्संश्रयाद्रुपदगेहम् उपगतनानं राज्ञं स्वयंवरमुखे स्मर्दुर्मदानां तेजोहृतं खलु मयाभिहतश्च मत्स्यः सज्जीकृतेन्धनुषाधिगता च कृष्णा
Translation. Only by his merciful strength was I able to vanquish all the lusty princes assembled at the palace of King Draupada for the selection of the bridegroom. With my bow and arrow, I could pierce the fish target and thereby gain the hand of Draupadi.
Verse 15.8. Yet, 1 minute. The tune. यत्सन्निधवहमुखण्डवामग्नयैदम् इन्द्रं च समरगणमं तरसविजित्या लब्धा सभा मया कृतद्भुता शिल्पमाया दिग्भ्यो हरन्नृपतयो बलिम् अध्वरेते.
Translation: Because he was near me, it was possible for me to conquer with great dexterity the powerful king of heaven, Indradeva, along with his demigod associates, and thus enable the fire god to devastate the Khandava forest. And only by his grace was the demon named Maya saved from the blazing Kandava forest, and thus we could build our assembly house of wonderful architectural workmanship, where all the princes are assembled during the performance of Rajasuya Yajna and paid your tributes.
Verse 15.9. यत्तेजसा नृपशिरोन्घ्रिम् अहन्मखार्तम् अर्योनुजस्तव गजयुता सत्त्ववीर्यः तेनार्थप्रमथनथामाख्यभूपा यन्मोचितास्तदनायं बलिं मध्वरेते.
Translation: Your respectful younger brother, who possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants, killed by his grace Jarasandha, whose feet were worshipped by many kings. These kings had been brought for sacrifice in Jarasandha's Mahabhairava Yajna, but they were thus released. Later they paid tribute to your majesty.
Verse 15.10. पत्न्यास्तवधिमिखा महाभिषेक श्लघिष्टचारुकबरं कित्वेह सभायाम् स्पृष्टं विकीर्य पदायोपतित्सरुमुख्या यत्तस्त्रियो कृताः तेषा विमुक्तकेशा.
Translation: It was he who only who loosened the hair of all the wives of the miscreants, who dared open the cluster of your queen's hair, which had been nicely dressed and sanctified for the great Rajasuya sacrificial ceremony. At that time she fell down at the feet of Lord Krishna with tears in her eyes.
Verse 15.11. यो नो जुगोपवन दुरन्तकृच्छ्राद् दुर्वाससोरीरचेतद् शाकानशिष्टम् उपयुज्य यतस्त्रिलोकीम् तृप्तम् अमंस्तासलील्विनिमग्नसङ्घः.
Translation: During our exile, Durvasa Muni, who eats with his 10,000 disciples, intrigued with our enemies to put us in dangerous trouble. At that time, he, Lord Krishna, simply by accepting the remnants of food, saved us. By his accepting food, thus, the assembly of Munis, while bathing in the river, felt sumptuously fed, and all the three worlds were also satisfied.
Verse 15.12. यत्तेजसाद्भगवान् युधिशूलपाणिर्विस्मापितः सागिर्जोस्त्रतम् अदनन्निजं मे अन्ये अपि चाहमनुनैव कलेवरेण प्राप्तो महेन्द्र भवने महदासनार्थम्।
Translation: It was by his influence only that in a fight I was able to astonish the personality of God Lord Shiva and his wife, the daughter of Mount Himalaya. Thus he, Lord Shiva, became pleased with me and awarded me his own weapon. Other demigods also delivered their respective weapons to me, and in addition, I was able to reach the heavenly planets in this present body and was allowed a half elevated seat.
Verse 15.13 तत्रैव मे विहरतो भुजदण्डयुग्मम् गाण्डीवलक्षणम् अरातीवदाय देवाः सेन्द्राः श्रिता यदनुभावितम् आजमीड तेनाहमद्यमुषितः पुरुषेण भुम्ना.
Translation: When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indradeva, took shelter of my arms, which were marked with a Gandiva bow to kill the demon named Nivat Kavacha. O king, descendant of Ajamita, at the present moment I am bereft of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful.
Verse 15.14 यद्बान्धवः कुरु बलाद्धिम् अनन्तपरम् एको रथेनाततरेऽहम् अतीर्य सत्त्वम् प्रत्याहृतं बहुधनं च मया परेषाम् तेजास्पदं मणिमयं च हृतं शिरोभ्यः.
Translation: The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelt many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance.
Verse 15.15 यो भीष्मकर्णगुरुशल्यचमुष्वअध्रा राजन्यवर्या रथमण्डलमण्डितासु अग्रे चरो मम विभोरथयूथपाना मायुर्मनांसि च दृशा सह ओज आर्षत्.
Translation: It was he only who withdrew the duration of life from everyone, and who in the battlefield withdrew the speculative power and strength of enthusiasm from the great military phalanx made by the Kauravas, headed by Bhishma, Karna, Drona, Shalya, etc. Their arrangement was expert and more than adequate, but he, Lord Krishna, while going forward, did all this.
Verse 15.16 यद्दोषुः मा प्रणिहितं गुरुभीष्मकर्ण नत्र त्रिगर्तशल्यसैन्धवा बहलिकादयः अस्त्राणि अमोघा महिमानि निरूपितानि नोपस्पशृणृहरिदासम् इव सुराणि.
Translation: Great generals like Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Bhurishrava, Sushrama, Salya, Jayadratha, and Bahalika all directed their invincible weapons against me. By by his Lord Krishna's grace, they could not even touch a hair on my head. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj, the supreme devotee of Lord Narasimhadeva, was unaffected by the weapons the demons used against him.
Verse 15.17. Sautye vritaha kumatinatmadishvaro me yat padam bhavaya jan bhajanti bhavya mam shrantavahamaryo rathino bhuvishtam न प्राहरण्यदनुभावनीरस्तचित्ताः.
Translation. It was by his mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses. And it was due to my lack of esteem for my Lord that I dared engage him as my chariot driver. For he is worshipped and offered services by the best men to attain salvation. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. The recitation is over.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Shakshi Mataji, you did the English, and who was doing the Sanskrit?
Disha Mataji.
My glasses? No.
Disha Mataji. Oh, thank you so much. That was very nicely done. So welcome, dear devotees, to today's chat session. We continue with our reading and discussion of the first canto, and we proceed with chapter 15 entitled The Pandavas Retire Timely, and today we'll be discussing text number 11. Sorry, 13. I missed 11. So before we proceed, let's recite the Mangala Charanam prayers. Please feel free to join in via unmuted mics. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunvalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Shri Rupam Sahagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhisya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Aschicha Dishita Rime. Hare Krishna. So I see a number of attendees have been dropping. Is this now the new normal? About 27 devotees join? Before we used to get much more. I'm just wondering whether it's due to anything we've done or not done. So, okay, I need to see how I can switch annotations off. Yeah, that's good. Okay, dear devotees, today we will now be reading from text number 13. Okay. It seems like a longer meter. Tatraiva me viharatu bhujadanda yukvam Gandhi Valakshanam Arti Vadhaya Devam Sendra Shritayad Anubhavitam Ajamidham Tenaham Ajyamushita Purasena Bhuma. Word for word synonyms. In that heavenly planet, Tatra, in that heavenly planet, Eva, certainly, me, myself, Viharata, while staying as a guest, Pujadanda Yugmam, both of my arms, Gandhiva, the bow named Gandiva, Lakshanam, mark, Arati, a demon named Nivata Kavacha, Vadhaya, for killing Devha of the demigods, Sa, along with Indra, the heavenly king Indra, Shritha, take shelter of, Yat, by whose Anubhavitam made it possible to be powerful, Ajamidha, O descendant of King Ajamidha. Tena, by him, Aham, myself, Adya, at the present moment, Musita, bereft of Purasena, the personality, Bhomna, supreme. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When I stayed for some days as a guest in the heavenly planets, all the heavenly demigods, including King Indradev, took shelter of my arms, which was marked the Gandiva bow, to kill the demon named Nivata Kavacha. O King, descendant of Ajamida, at the present moment I am bereft of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose influence I was so powerful. Purport. The heavenly demigods are certainly more intelligent, powerful, and beautiful, and yet they had to take help from Arjuna because of his Gandiva bow, which was empowered by the grace of Lord Shri Krishna. The Lord is all powerful, and by his grace, his pure devotee can be as powerful as he may desire. And there is no limit to it. And when the Lord withdraws his power from anyone, he is powerless by the will of the Lord. So this section of verses 7 to 17, Arjuna is remembering or recalling Lord Krishna's favors and intimate protection. This is called smaranam, remembrance of the Lord and his activities. Prabhupada said that the fruit of good hearing and good chanting is smaranam, remembrance. So when one becomes accustomed to hearing attentively, hearing very nicely, chanting attentively, chanting nicely, then automatically smaranam will be there. Smaranam is a function of one's attachment to Lord Krishna. So Arjuna here in these verses, see, most of this chapter is to do with Arjuna's feeling of separation, viraha. And these feelings of separation arise from remembrance, smaranam of the Lord. So in this verse, Arjuna, he's saying something very, very important and instructive for us in our Krishna consciousness. And firstly, he's remembering his own prowess. Arjuna's prowess was so great, so renowned, that once he was called to the heavenly planets. He was a guest there of the demigods. And while he was a guest there, the demigods were being troubled by a demon called Nivata Kavacha. And this demon was powerful. And at that point, the demigods, they called for Arjuna to protect them. Now, this is very unusual, very, very unusual, because the demigods generally, they are more intelligent, they are more powerful, and they're more beautiful. Prabhupada once said, if we compare the demigods, the most beautiful woman in Earth planet in front of the demigoddesses, that beautiful earthly being will simply look like a frog. That's how beautiful the denizens of the heavenly planet are. Not only that, they are highly intelligent, extremely intelligent. Even the most intelligent person in this material world, Bhuloka, earthly planet, looks insignificant. And as far as power is concerned, the demigods are much, much more powerful. But yet, as Prabhupada says in the purport, they took help from Arjuna. And why was that? Because Arjuna, Prabhupada says here, it was because Arjuna's bow, the Gandiva, which was empowered by the grace of Lord Krishna, was very powerful, more powerful than the weapons from the other demigods. Now, what is so instructive about this verse from Arjuna's perspective is how Arjuna is attributing his sorry, my battery's going to go dead. I need to quickly change over. Arjuna is attributing his prowess to the mercy. He's not thinking, I was so powerful. How did I lose that strength currently? What is the cause of me becoming so disempowered? Immediately he attributes his current condition to being bereft of the presence of Lord Krishna. And all the power that he had, he recognizes that that was due to Lord Krishna. And this is devotee. The devotee never considers any ability, any skill, any attribute, any power that they may have due to their own self. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter number 18, text number 58, Lord Krishna says something very important. He says, Mat chitta sarva durgani, mat prasadat tarishyasi, atachitvam ahankaran nashrushasi vinangshasi. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So, for a devotee, this principle, this consciousness is very important. That when we act, as Krishna says here, if we work in the consciousness that all our abilities are coming from Krishna, not through us as the false ego, we would think, but it's coming through Krishna, then we will be protected. We will be safe. But if any time our consciousness changes and we think, this is due to me, I am so good, then we fall into Maya. Maya. This is how Maya acts. So a devotee is always under the impression that it's due to Krishna's will, it's due to Krishna's mercy. That's why, Prabhupada used to say, we did it. Whereas one who's acting under false ego says, I did it. A devotee will always say, we did it. And when I first came to ISKCON, I was a little puzzled. When I used to see like a devotee says, we cooked the feast today. We distributed 5 Bhagavad Gitas. We did this. I was thinking, why they say we? They did it. I know they did it. But the devotee never says I. Devotees, we. Because the we means Krishna, or the empowerment of the spiritual master. Whereas those who are under the false ego, they think I. When Prahlad Maharaj, he was talking to his father Hiranyakashipu, his father told him, his father was surprised how he had tried so many means to kill Prahlad, given him poison, put him in a pit of poison snakes, threw him from a mountain, put him under the feet of an elephant, placed him in boiling oil. So Hiranyakashipu, he was thinking and asking Prahlad, from where do you get all of this power? From where do you get all of this power? And Prahlad, very simply, he replied, I am getting my power from the same source from you, where you are getting your power. And this incensed Hiranyakashipu. He said, what? And where is this Lord of yours? Is he in that pillar? He said, yes, he's in that pillar. Struck it. And Lord Nishingadev came out. So Prahlad was instructing his father that the power of everyone comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, when he's describing his opulences, Krishna says, I am the ability in man. I am the ability in man. So this is devotees. Devotees are always very conscious, very cognizant, not to come under the influence of the false ego. Devotees are always giving credit to Krishna. And if we study the life of Srila Prabhupada, this is so prevalent. Prabhupada once said, I did not write these books. Krishna wrote these books. Krishna was dictating to me and I was simply writing. Prabhupada never said, I wrote these books. He gave the credit to Krishna. And then also, Srila Prabhupada gave the credit to his own spiritual master. When Prabhupada was on the Jaluduta, he wrote many beautiful poems. In one poem, he says, although my Guru Maharaj ordered me to accomplish this mission, I am not worthy or fit to do it. I am very fallen and insignificant. Therefore, O Lord, now I am begging for your mercy so that I may become worthy. For you are the wisest and most experienced of all. If you bestow your power, by serving the spiritual master, one attains the absolute truth. One's life becomes successful. If that service is obtained, then one becomes happy and gets the association due to good fortune. So Prabhupada is giving recognition also to his spiritual master. He's saying to is that by the mercy of the spiritual master, then I am getting all these abilities. And Prabhupada used to say, all credit is simply due to his spiritual master. And then in another poem, Prabhupada says in his prayer to Lord Krishna, he says, I wish that you may deliver them. Therefore, if you so desire their deliverance, then only will they be able to understand your message. So Prabhupada is saying, Krishna, I have no power to deliver these living entities, these jivas. Therefore, if you desire, you can deliver them. And only by your mercy will they be able to understand your speech. So Arjuna, he's being a pure devotee of the Lord. He's recognizing that it's only by the mercy of Lord Krishna that he has become so powerful, so powerful. And we should always, as far as possible, try to live our lives in that consciousness. And also, very importantly, envy is something very detrimental to our spiritual lives. To be envious of another devotee is a great aparad. It's a great offense. So when we see another devotee with some special abilities, some special capabilities, some special skills, who are due to that, who are rendering some extraordinary service, we should immediately not feel envious that this person is more so good, so capable. Why can't I be like that? Immediately our consciousness should be, this person has attained the favor of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna has empowered them. Lord Krishna has bestowed the mercy upon them, so that Prowess is coming from Lord Krishna. And it is Krishna's own sweet will, his own desire that he's bestowing. So when we feel envious, we actually becoming caught in contradicting the Lord's desire and feeling upset with Krishna in one sense. So we should always think, if we ever find ourselves becoming caught in some thoughts or feelings of envy, we should always remember that that devotee, that person, he's been empowered by Krishna. And we should always also pray for empowerment in our own lives so that we can serve Krishna. We always want to serve Krishna in the best way. We want to offer Krishna the best cooking, Radha Krishna, the best cooking, the best singing, the best speaking, the best service we want to offer. Not so that we may become praised and eulogized, but because that will be very pleasing to the Lord. So we should pray for empowerment. I remember Divyanam Prabhu, whenever I used to tell him, "Oh Prabhu, I don't know how we can achieve our goals for this big book distribution. The goals seem so lofty, so difficult." Then he should tell me, "Pray for empowerment, Vrindavan Chandra. Pray for empowerment." There's one nice pastime in Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada had finished the entire translation of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was displeased, he was unhappy that the devotees are not published it. And he wanted Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita to be printed. And the devotees, they got the best technology, they decided they'll work double shifts. And they went to Srila Prabhupada and says, "Prabhupada, I think we can do 3 volumes every month." And Prabhupada stopped. He placed his cane in the sand. He said, "I want all 16 volumes to be printed." I think he said it in 2 months. And the devotee in charge of the printing press Rameshwar Prabhu, he said, "But Prabhupada, that's impossible." Prabhupada placed his cane firmly in the sand. He looked at the devotee and he said, "Impossible is a word only in a fool's dictionary. Impossible is only a word in a fool's dictionary." Meaning, if we say impossible, we lack faith in the power of the spiritual master. If we say impossible, we lack faith in the power of Lord Krishna. If Lord Krishna so desires, he can empower each and every one of us to do amazing things, if he so desires. So this word impossible doesn't exist for a devotee. A devotee knows that Krishna's power is unlimited. And Prabhupada says here, by his grace, his pure devotee can be as powerful as he may desire, and there is no limit to it. There can be no limit to a devotee's power if he is so empowered by Krishna. And this is what Arjuna is thinking. I was so powerful only because of Krishna. And now that Krishna has departed, I've become powerless, and I've become so powerless and bereft of power because Krishna is not here anymore. So beautiful. If we study the consciousness of the pure devotees in their words, there's so much of deep meaning, deep instruction in the words of the pure devotees. It seems so simple what Arjuna is saying, but it's so deep at the same time. So it's 1:30 now. I always like to stop on time. We'll stop here and we'll take any questions, comments, or reflections that anyone may have.
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan Chandra, Prabhu. Thank you so much for a lovely lecture. It was really very deep reflections and amazing analysis of the verse. It brought a lot of realizations and just reflections in my mind. I was wondering if I may ask a question.
Sure.
So when we see people just on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I especially like the idea of we did it. So idea of Krishna's always with you and working through you, empowering you. We see sort of, I don't want to say materialistic people, but they're sort of, they're not conscious of the fact that Krishna is there with them, I suppose. But sort of, I work in a school and I see a lot of amazing people, amazing teachers, and I see Krishna working through them. But how to reconcile the fact that they're not conscious of the fact that Krishna is working through them, but again, you know, he is doing that. Krishna is there present, but what is their consciousness at that time? So Krishna is sort of, I don't know, they're not devotees, but of course they're connected with Krishna. So is this like Maya covering them, but then Krishna is still acting through them? So how to understand this sort of philosophically speaking? I mean, some of them, like personality and capabilities wise, are far more advanced than me, for example, just in the way that they are and the way of teaching, and I just see that Krishna's working through them. But then again, it's like they're not devotees, so how do you understand that Krishna's working through somebody, but again they're covered over by Maya at the same time? So how does that work?
Well, we understand people develop some abilities. You know, some people will say it's due to their karma. It is due to their training. It's due to their dedication. Like an atheist, if we say, oh, you know, he's so intelligent, he's so skillful in football, it's all Krishna's mercy. An atheist may retort back saying, that's nonsense. Why are you bringing Krishna into the picture? This individual, his whole life, he's applied himself very diligently. He's trained hard and he's born with natural ability from his genes. From his genes, he's just got good genes. So why do you invoke Krishna? This is foolishness. That's how the atheists, that's how they argue. But we can see, even in the greatest boxers, the greatest footballers, they are at their peak, and then suddenly the next day, you know, they get knocked down or they lose their ability, they can no longer score goals. And some people will say, oh, they're just going through some bad form, you know, some bad form. But what is this bad form? A Krishna conscious person always recognizes that ultimately it is Krishna sanctions them to have that ability, and Krishna may say, okay, I sanction this person, you know, they can be so intelligent or they can be so skillful. We understand that ultimately it comes from Krishna because Krishna sanctions it. And if Krishna doesn't sanction it, something, you know, they can train as hard as they want, and you know, they won't have that ability. And as I read that verse from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, if one acts through false ego, one will be lost. So it's out of false ego only that people think that it's their ability. It's their ability. And therefore, when somehow or the other, sometimes they lose that ability, they become very confused. They become very bitter. They become frustrated. to think, why, I am the same person I was last year. I'm still doing the same level of training. But now, no matter how hard I try, I can't score the goal. It just evades me. What do you attribute that? Same person, same level of training, same genes, but next year they can't do it. They can't do it. Because the devotee understands that ultimately it's the sanction of Krishna. It's the ability of Krishna. And that's how we see it. They may be atheistic, they may deny Krishna, but we know ultimately it is Krishna, and that power is coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of all energies, is the energetic. So it's coming from Krishna. Like Arjuna was thinking, that power I had, same Gandiva bow. He was thinking like that, I am the same Arjuna, same powerful Arjuna, same Gandiva bow. But now all of this is simply powerless. And he's thinking, it's Krishna. It's Krishna. So it's Maya. Yes, they are covered by Maya. They're covered by the false ego. And therefore, they'll never recognize Krishna.
So it's like Krishna's taken them on that journey, even though they're not conscious of him. So it's still Krishna leading them. But it's like, what's it, not yoga, Mahamaya covers that. But I'd like to think that Krishna's still leading them on the journey, but in their own time, if that makes sense. So they're not, I don't know how to say it.
For those
Krishna's
not
covered for them in their heart.
I mean, our Shastras tell us that Krishna is also within their heart. He's also witnessing all of their activities, but he's not active. He's not active, in the sense that
he's not interactive.
Yeah, he's not interactive.
Okay, thank you. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Hare Krishna. Nice question. Thoughtful question.
Hare Krishna, Vrindavan, Chandra, Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All grace to Srila Prabhupada. I also have a question around Gaurangi's question and answer. What I understood, I'm sure without Krishna's knowledge or ability, this person who are not even Krishna conscious, they also carry on because it's all Krishna is supplied by Krishna. But some people just go on, getting this ability constantly without even realizing. So how do you understand that Krishna, why Krishna is, how they're getting, without being Krishna, how they're getting all the, wonderful ability to do their thing? What would be their journey? What would be their realization, if they ever, or would they will become Krishna conscious eventually? Or I just want to know.
Well, according to Vaishnava Siddhanta, what is the catalyst that changes persons? So if they come across in their lives, come across a devotee, or they come across the words of Lord Krishna, and they accept the words of Lord Krishna, that all power, all strength, all ability comes from Krishna, then they will attribute that success ultimately to Krishna. And they basically, it's like the two birds on the same tree. One is eating the fruit and one is just observing. And that one bird is so absorbed in consuming the fruit, it doesn't notice the other bird. But when it turns and looks and recognizes, then that's the start of a new journey. So I'm not sure if I understood your question, but the point being is they will become enlightened. They will see the reality when they meet Krishna, or they come across Krishna's words, or they come across Krishna's devotees, actually, Krishna's devotees. And there are lots of examples of that.
George Harrison is one.
Yeah, George Harrison was one example. There was this big famous wrestler. I think his name was Kali.
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali too. Also, he recognized Allah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here in their journey, Krishna, of course, there for everybody. It's just the realization how I'm managing this. And Krishna will give the intelligence. I'm sure Krishna will give them the intelligence to understand it. It's not only me doing it, it's some power is there. It's coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's that realization also. Maybe little at a time, these people will realize that it's not only me, it's coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to know that all the demigods in the heavenly planet, are they in mode of goodness or just pure goodness?
No goodness, just goodness.
Just goodness, yeah. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, this is the verse I read, Mataji. 1858. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all obstacles. But if you act however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or reflections?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Prabhuji, you're asking a question while I'm driving, so I hope you don't mind. So, Prabhuji, I've been thinking about this. Sorry, my humble obeisances to you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, thank you for a wonderful class. But Prabhuji, I've been self-introspecting on myself for some time, and hence the question, because you talked about false ego, and I'm trying level hard to listen more, because as you know, I love talking a bit, and listen listen a bit more. But I always find myself, Prabhuji, in a situation where I'm always just full of energy whenever it comes talking about Krishna. Even if I'm having lunch with my work colleagues, which I was today, I was talking about Krishna. I was doing a presentation today, and it came to talking about Krishna. So is this my false ego doing it, or is it and I'm trying to introspect into myself that do I need to listen a bit more to people, and how can I give myself the time to be a bit more patient and just listen and just keep my mouth shut, which I find very hard anyway. So is this my false ego doing it, or is it I'm doing it out of compassion? And sometimes I don't know. I use we a lot, although I try try not to. Never is probably not the right word to use I, but I'm struggling to understand that. Is it my ego, or is it compassion? And you can be very honest to me, Prabhuji, please. Thank you.
You know, it's natural for the soul to talk. And in its real spiritual position, the soul wants to talk about Krishna. In the material world, you know, we are inclined to talk about others in a negative way. So when you're talking, once I was speaking to a senior devotee at the temple, and he was telling me that how when we fall into the material world, the first thing that happens to us is we take on a false ego, a false identity. And I was telling him that, you know, in my spiritual life, I see that as a big obstacle. And how do you overcome the false ego? And he told me you can't. He told me you can't. The false ego is very powerful. But then he gave me a very nice advice. He told me, but if you always act according to your constitutional activities, right, then you will be acting in alignment with your real ego. And what is our constitutional activities is to serve Krishna and serve his devotees. So if we serve Krishna and his devotees with no ulterior motive, with no ulterior desire, then we're acting according to real ego. And he said, that's how you overcome the false ego. The more and more you act according to real ego, according to your constitutional position, the more and more will your false ego be suppressed. So coming back to your question, you asked if you are talking to Krishna, to people all the time, is that false ego? I would say it's more enthusiasm. But if you are talking to people just to prove to them that you have a superior philosophy, that you are better than them, and they should follow what you are following because you have found the best path, then maybe false ego is there. But if you speak to them out of enthusiasm, genuine enthusiasm from your heart, it is a constitutional activity. I don't see any harm in it. I don't see it's like false ego. I just see it's enthusiasm and desire to bring people to Krishna, which is great.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah. I think that's clear, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll stop there. All glories to your service. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyeva Bhavinebhyo
Brahmavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Nadakundi Vaishnava ki bye. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.